Hey everyone, welcome back again to Code Live. My name is Mohit. I'm a developer advocate here at Salesforce. And thank you so much for being here, joining another episode of Code Live. Uh, Again, for all of you LinkedIn followers, welcome. We are multicasting this broadcast now on LinkedIn as well as on our YouTube channel. So feel free to pick the channel of your choice for this. So today I'm excited to share this content with you. Today we're going to look at a topic in Einstein, of course, Copilot, Einstein Copilot. That's my favorite topic these days because I've been exploring, our Einstein Copilot product here. Today I want to talk about and code a little bit of how to like build a Copilot action, a custom action, but with prompt templates. So prompt templates, as a lot of you might already know, can be created using prompt builder. So prompt builder allows us to create these prompts and then send it to these large language models, get all these generative AI features that these large language model offers. But the secret behind writing prompts is making sure that it has all the context, and your context is in Salesforce data. So you have a lot of metadata and data. We can use all of these to power the prompt so that we can send the right prompt with making sure it's secure with our ancient trust layer, but then get all that benefits of large language model, like being able to summarize, being able to add field descriptions, or do some planning. And that's what today I'm excited to share is I want to share the reasoning capability of these large language model and how you can put that to a business use case with prompt builder. So that's what we're going to look at it. And then how do you expose that specific prompt template so it can be easily sort of created as a custom action, and then you can use conversational AI assistant that we have called Einstein Copilot and get all that invoked large language model with these templates. So really excited to get started, hands on, build with it. Before that, if you have any questions, feel free to use chat. And again, hello everyone. The recordings will be available. A lot of you asking our recordings. Yes, it will be available on our YouTube channel. So with that, I want to share my screen, and how about we get started with today's content. So what I want to show you today is of course, first thing that you need to do is make sure you have licenses. And today, if you are a developer and if you want to play with Einstein products, specifically like Copilot and Prompt Builder, there are Trailhead modules where we offer some of the orgs for 5 days. I highly recommend that you sign up for them, build some solutions, and if you're building, use that hashtag hash build with Einstein so we can all see, appreciate it, share it with our network, right? But you need to have Einstein licenses, and for developers, that's the way to get those licenses is to use that edition RX that we offer in the Trailhead, which gives you 5 days. If you are a customer, if you have unlimited edition RX, there is unlimited, there is this unlimited Einstein Plus license, or not so comfortable with licenses, so definitely ask your AEs. But once you have the licenses, make sure you turn on this, and then you have access to all these tools. One of my favorite these days is Prompt Builder, because as you know, it lets me use that large language model capabilities and then bring that capabilities back into Salesforce in Flows or Apex, all of these, right? So to start with today, the application that I have is an application called Corals Cloud. We've been using this for different hands-on workshops, so a lot of you might already be familiar. But for those of you who are not familiar, what I want to do is really walk you through some of these, objects that we'll be working with and the use case. So we can set this use case, then we start working on a solution. So everything in Salesforce, right, starts with the data model. So let's understand a little bit of data model of what we are trying to achieve here. So this is a resort vendor, right? So they want to offer their customers a good experience, right? And that experience is through applications, to various applications that they have built. But they also want to improve the productivity of their employees. That means, the agents who are serving, the sales rep, right? They all use Salesforce for different CRM activities. We want to make them productive with generative AI capabilities, right? So what I have is some experiences object. So this object, as you can see, has different experiences. Like if I open one of these experiences, what you will see here is there is a thing called type. Okay, so the type captures what type of experience it is and what is the price of it, location, etc. And then there is a description for these experiences, the duration, and the capacity. Now, each of these experience, right, also has experience sessions. So these experience sessions again are for each of these experiences, and they also have, the thing with the experience and experience session is these are sessions for that specific experiences. So experience sessions are child object compared to experiences. And you can see that we have the start time and the end time and the date for each of these experiences. So they offer different experiences for their guests, and each of these sessions are already there with the capacity, with start date and end time. Now they have the guests coming into the system and they use contacts. Like for example, this Sophia here, Sophia Rodriguez. Now can see that she has some interest like adventure activities, beaches, fitness, and exercise. So what we want to do is we want to use large language model today to help plan events for Sophia, right? So we have experiences, we have these experience sessions with us that are happening today. We know her interests. So obviously, we could easily pull in the kind of experience that she wants to have and plan her a schedule. Now, you can manually do it, but imagine, planning this for a large contacts in your system. This can be really tedious, and a lot of work has to happen, manually. But today we have these large language models which have reasoning capabilities, and if you provide them the right prompt, they are able to do this planning for us. So that's the beauty of it, right? Again, feel free to ask your questions. If you're not understanding data model or anything like that, feel free to ask me these. If you didn't catch up the business scenario that we are working on, feel free to use chat, and let's make this really collaborative experience here as we kind of build these Copilot actions. Expose these prompt templates as Copilot actions, right? So again, I was telling about large language models, right? They can plan things for Sophia here. Once you provide the right prompts, that's the key. Is like you have to tell prompt that, hey, these are the experiences that she's interested in, and these are the sessions that is happening today. And also, you can write reasoning out there saying, hey, I want her schedule to plan out in a certain way. So as long as you provide all that information as a prompt to these large language models, they are really capable of planning and giving us that uh, planner or that scheduled plan for the specific contact. Okay. Again, feel free to ask me questions. I can see all of your chat, which is really awesome here, right? um, all right, so let's see if there are any questions here. um, and yeah, I see a lot of you have joined this from LinkedIn. So hello, LinkedIn. Okay, so now let's go back to prompt builder, because I told you, right, that's where you actually build your prompt. So prompt builder, you can find it in your setup once you enable the prompt builder. And the way you build these prompts is by saying new prompt templates and then providing the prompt template type. Like you can choose to select field generation, flex templates, record summary, sales email. So if you are drafting a sales email, then you have to select sales email. If you are drafting descriptions, like if you want large language model to automatically suggest descriptions, that's where it's field description. If you want to summarize a record, you have to choose record summary. But then there is this new type called flex, which is my favorite, because this you can, it's flex means flexible, means this is template is capable of being used anywhere you would like in your application, like whether these template you would like to invoke via flow or apex. You want to execute this template in this template. If you want to ground the data with crm data, you can do that. So that's my favorite type, is like flex. And today we're going to take an example of flex template type, because that's, I think that is what we want here. The schedule should be using this flex template type, because again we can use it in our workflow, right? All right, so let me actually zoom in a bit better so it's easier for all of us. There you go. Okay, so next thing I want to show you is, I'm not gonna handcraft this prompt template in the interest of the time, because I want to spend more time on the copilot. But I really want you to focus on this prompt that we have written here as an example, because prompt writing involves definitely some effort, and there is some learning here. The way I like to think about prompts is, think of it as a high level programming language, because prompts can generate these responses, right? So that becomes like code. So treat it like code. That's how I've been treating. But if you look at this, right, so we say, your name is user dot first name. That means it will be my name to begin with, and then you work in this organization. You can start with that. So you set this context, that who this assistant is, or who this AI assistant is going to be, right? Always good to start with that. And then we want to basically say, hey, introduce yourself, right? That's the content that we want here. And then present the list of resort activities happening today. I think what we are doing in this prompt, probably, if I'm not wrong, even though it's flex type, let's see. So even though it's flex type of uh, prompt, right? Generate, it's flex type. Maybe we want to use this in some content creation as well, maybe in screen flows, or maybe in email templates. So really want to um, add clear sentences here, right? So introduce yourself, then present the list of resort activities happening today that match the guest interest. For clarity, use bullet list. Each activity include name, time, location, and duration. Do not include the date. We want to tell what not to do. That's also one of the best practices of writing prompt, is then add a suggested schedule. Now we want to take into the account the start time and the duration of each activity. Make sure that you don't include activities that overlap. We want to create a schedule, so want to tell, make sure the guest has at least 60 minutes of free time between activities. That's the reasoning that we want to add here. That's the logic that we want to add here. And note, we are not having to craft this logic via sockle or anything like that, right? It's not rigid, right? You're just using natural language to express all of these logical requirements. And that's the beauty of these large language models, is because they understand this. You can express your logic in these terms, right? And then we say present the suggested schedule in chronological order. Definitely we want to tell how we want our output to be, and tell the guests to reach out if they like to book any of these activities, right? What is that messaging that you want to hit in this content you want to tell, right? And the list of activities happening today that match guest interests. And this is where it gets interesting, is we don't hard code these. We use apex to give this whole context, right? So our apex class name is personalized guest experiences. So now I want to walk you through that code that I've written here for that personalized guest experiences, right? So let's actually go back to my VS Code. So one thing you would want to know is, this is very important here. Any Apex that you are using to ground a specific prompt template requires a capability type, right? And it depends on the template type that you have. We have different types of templates, and you can read through the documentation of what it would be for each type. Like if you're doing a record summary type of prompt template, then this is different than what you're doing for email or for field descriptions. But for flex template, it's called flex template. and then the name of the prompt, and this has to be the prompt template. This has to be the API name. So if we take a look at this prompt and go look at its settings, you will see that this is the API name, and that is how the dependency is established by API name. And then we say get sessions. So in this sessions, right, what we are doing is we are sending a JSON to the prompt. So here it just appends this to the prompt. But what is it appending? It's using this controller and get session. So if you go to this controller, you will see that it requires contact as the input. So that is, this thing has to again match back to the uh, you know to the object type that you selected in the flex template. So when you create the flex template, it's going to ask you for the object, and your method definitely should take that object as a parameter. So you can see here contact is the parameter. I'm just doing a simple sockle query where I'm saying, hey, based on the interest type that they indicate on these contact, give me all those experience sessions that are happening today which are not in canceled. And of course you need to make sure that it's running with security privileges, although I would have just used the user mode here instead of saying with security enforced. That's fine. And then how many of them we want to showcase, right? Maybe limit it, maybe sort it, filter it. Of course, don't make this grounding a lot longer, because the number of, so each of these prompt actually goes to the large language model, and you want to make sure that your large language model, right, has sufficient context window, or window size we call it, which is basically it takes this prompt, breaks it into what we call it as tokens, and there is a number of a limit that each API can have. So that's why make sure that you put appropriate filter. Just make sure that you're giving enough data and don't pass unnecessary data into your prompts. But as you can see, we've used this. Now that we can use this, you can see easily that we are able to ground this, right? So if I just to show you, so from the resource here we could pick that apex class. It will show that apex class, and we can provide that as a grounding. We can test that our class is actually being able to append to this prompt, and we have a resolution here. So let's actually pick up the contact. So we can go here and look for that contact. So let's say I'll pick up Sophia. Let's save and preview. So now it's basically taking that resolution, right, and it's gonna give resolution and the response. So resolution means what is that final prompt that kind of went into the large language model, of course through our Einstein trust layer. So you can see it was basically it was all JSON data. So it resolved itself and then went here. You can see that it is able to recommend some activities based on these are the activities that are happening today, list of activities that are happening today. So it is more personalized, right? It says I'm Mohit because that's what I indicated based on your interest. Curated a list of resort activities happening today. You can see the list of activities and then the suggested schedule, right? So this activity will end at 12, and then we said give a gap of 60 minutes. It did, and then it suggested all the activities and planned. The large language model itself planned all the activities that Sophia can have today, with all the sessions that are happening in a resort. Uh, One thing I want to show you here is if you actually pick a model, like for example, OpenAI GPT 3.5, and try to save and preview, you will see that GPT-4 is much better in terms of doing these kind of reasoning activities. So you can see that this probably doesn't look like right schedule for me, based on the activities too, because we clearly said just in have 60 minutes of time. So GPT-3 is not good for 3.5 is not good for these kind of use cases where you're doing much more planning, right? That's where GPT-4, it has reasoning built into it, and we want to make sure we pick one of these GPT-4 turbo models. So I think OpenAI GPT-4 turbo is what I would pick if you're doing something like this for your application. So once we pick GPT-4, you will see that as you saw, the responses were much better, right? So here you can see that this definitely seems like yes, the responses are given, that it doesn't overlap, um, yeah. So it is much better response there. You can see, um, I think GPT. You can try with different models to see what is actually working better. Um, I have found that GPT-4 models are generally better in doing this kind of planning or um, those kind of activities. All right. So with that, actually, I want to activate this. Let's activate this prompt template. So the next thing that I want to do here is uh, how do we expose this whole thing? See, this is much better actually. GPT, OpenAI GPT-4 gave us much better, I think, much better response. Okay, so now what I want to do here is how do we expose these um, prompt templates, right, as copilot actions? And then, we could directly use this Einstein copilot to just use natural language to plan this schedule. And you'll see how awesome it is to use that. So let me actually go back here and go back to the copilot builder where we're going to build these copilot actions. So to build this, right, so you need Einstein copilot, and copilot has these bunch of standard actions that it comes along with it, and then you can add your own custom actions. And but then based on the user input or the prompt that you give to the Einstein Copilot, right? Based on that conversation intent, it can figure out which actions it need to execute and in which order, and change and get the chain together all of these actions, and it can get the the task done for you. That's the beauty of this Einstein Copilot, right? So what we're gonna do here is create a new Copilot action. So we're gonna say new Copilot action, and this time I'm gonna pick specifically the prompt template. Now it's going to ask for the action. So generate personalized schedule. That's the thing that we want. Now, the important part of development of these actions is these instructions here that you put is becomes very critically important, because if you don't get these things right, you will see that you will not be able to accomplish the output that you want, right? So the copilot action instruction has to be clear. And we have a documentation here like best practices for Einstein copilot actions. I'm going to put it in the chat here for everyone. And I'm going to use here restream to put this into the chat. um, let's see if you are uh, let me actually, I'll also put it in the Salesforce Developers YouTube channel if you're watching. And if Anthony, if you are there, if you could post the same link back to LinkedIn community, it'll be awesome. But here are the best practices for writing Einstein Copilot instructions, right? So we want to follow one of these. So first thing that we need here is the action description. So action instruction is the first thing that you need here. And make it very clear of what this action is. I'll show you an example of what I want here, right? So this action is used to generate a personalized schedule for a contact. This includes a list of resort experiences the contact might be interested in it, and suggested schedule for the day. Now, what is important is how this is going to execute, right? So we're going to say a prompt like, hey, generate a personalized schedule for Sophia Rodriguez, right? So the first thing it has to do is query for the records so that you know which contact ID it is, right? So it has to execute the standard query record. So that's why we need to specify that you must use the query record action to fetch the contact before executing the action. So you need to indicate that in your copilot action instruction is like, if you have, because these copilot actions are going to be part of that chain list of actions, if there is any action that this particular action depends on, make sure you put it as a description there so the large language model can easily understand this, right? And then this also becomes very important, like what you put it here, right? So in this case, what I want to put here is, what is this variable, right? Input my contact. So this is your contact information. So you have to indicate that contact for which the personalized schedule should be generated. This must be a valid JSON representing the contact info chained from having executed the query records action. You see, so you have to anticipate that, okay, the query record action is going to fetch the contact information, and then this is what you need from that. And it's very important that it must, you need these kind of descriptions, like must be a valid JSON representing the contact info chain from having executed. This could be, default like prompt generator response, and make sure you want to show that response in the conversation, right? Show it in the conversation. And if this output had to again chain back to some other action, make sure you describe that in English. So you see how these descriptions are very, 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 very important. If you, in fact, the developer workflow here is, you keep tweaking these descriptions until you get your actions to work with some set of prompts, right? So that is your developer workflow. It's kind of different than traditional developer workflow where we just code and test it out. Here, the way you do it is keep tweaking the instructions, and keep writing different, user intents. That means, um, keep, basically playing with the bot with different inputs, and see how your responses are coming. All right. So with that, let's finish it. So we click on finish. So this action is there. It's going to show new. And then, uh, where you test is Copilot Builder. So you can actually, so when you go to, Copilot, Einstein Copilot, and, of course, you have to enable it. But then when you click on it, it lets you launch this builder. And this is the builder. So in this builder, we should see that action now. So you see this action, and make sure you assign it. Make sure it is deactivated before you kind of assign it and test it, and then activate the Einstein Copilot. And I recommend using sandboxes or Scratch orgs to do all your testing and development. And we also have metadata API which you can use to deploy. So now I'm going to assign it to the Copilot. So let's actually test this prompt out and see if it's able to generate the responses. So we can say generate uh, personalized schedule for the contact. Let's say Sophia Rodriguez. Let me copy the spelling, because I think by name it has to go query the. So let's ask Copilot. So Copilot is now, basically figuring out what it needs to do, and then it's gonna basically query. First, it's gonna query, right? Because it has to know what is the contact ID of Sophia Rodriguez, and then it has to invoke that prompt template that I just showed you, right? So it's finishing it up, it's thinking through it. Fingers crossed. Let's give it some moment. There you go. So it did actually come back with the response. Of course, there's an opportunity for us to improve some response time here for sure. But you can see that it basically first went and found the contact name Sofia Rodriguez. It gave everything in the form of a JSON. It gave all the explanation for the output, and then it basically input as, so that contact, it converted that into JSON, and then use that as an input to the prompt, and then we were able to execute that prompt, and we got the response back. And you can see, great, here's the schedule for that specific thing. And we could copy this, email, or if we have a UI, maybe where we can edit some of these, we can edit. If you're using in screen flows, screen flows are another way where you can use these prompts. Of course, here, and then if you're happy, you go activate it. um, so that's the fun part. It's able to get the result. And then other thing I want to show you is, all the event logs comes up here, and you can see what's happening in these events here. So if you're troubleshooting, that is where you actually go. um, so let's take some questions here for next 2 to 3 minutes before I kind of wind up here. Let me bring myself back here. Let's see what questions you all have, so we can actually take the question. So one of the questions that I see on my screen now is, can you please explain reasoning engine at the end of the meeting? So Banu Prakash, that's a very good question. I would like you to, so there is a article here called Reasoning Engine Salesforce. If you Google for it, I'm gonna put the link for that here in the chat. Um, and you can basically read all about reasoning engine. Let me share my screen and maybe show you that article. Um, so that's written by us here at Salesforce. You can see that um, it clearly describes what is reasoning, um, and what types of reasoning are there today, and what large language models can do. So think of reasoning as, if you have, like, taken some exams, right, in your undergrad, or maybe you did not, but reasoning is like logical thinking, right? How do you come up to an answer, right? You break your problem into step by step, and you think through and put your thoughts together, right? So that is reasoning. It's basically, what is the reason for the answer, right? Hopefully that clarifies you. um, can we use more than one record in the so let's take another question here. Can we use more than one record in prompt template? Yes, you can do that, Anand. You can use more than one record in that prompt template. So here we used Apex in this prompt template. Um, so you can see that, in the prompt template that I had here, I was using Apex, and Apex can get list of records. Um, and if you wanted to do this in bulk, definitely you can do that. You can pass that as a list. You have to play with large language models. Sometimes it's able to recognize it, sometimes not. So of course, if you're building production grade solution, you have to basically also think of different ways. If large language model in case doesn't respond, maybe there's an alternative way where you can manually doing it at this point, till these large language models get really really better at it. Next question: can we use templates in custom Salesforce application? Yes, we can use these prompt templates in Apex. There are already a lot of blog articles on our website, on our Salesforce Developers blog. You can use it in LWCs and whatnot, flows. Um, and then, yes, embed in LWC. Yes, so that is possible. All right. It was so much fun today spending this half an hour walking through this solution, and also, helping you with some of these questions. Let us know how you are liking Code Live. If these sessions are helpful, just let us know. Give a shout out on LinkedIn or on X, and we are always listening. And we will see you in the next episode. Remember, every Thursday, except for the last Thursday of the month, because we have AMAs running, but every Thursday, we have these sessions. And if you're not able to make it, definitely catch us on that on demand recordings that we'll put on our YouTube channel. So with that, we will see you in the next one. Thank you everyone for joining.